Welcome back.
Welcome back. We today are talking about 10 things I wish I would have known when I found out I had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
The early days. Of course, all of this information helps you throughout, right?
Yeah. And there's probably 20 things you're glad you didn't know.
Well,
Maybe?
Yeah.
But this is just a list of, wow, it would have been nice to know that type of thing. Maybe it would have made things go smoother or would have done things differently if I would have known, all of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, and these are in no particular order other than this is how my brain thought of them. Right?
But maybe a pretty good podcast to share with somebody who you know just got diagnosed, or you're a friend of theirs, or you know somehow connected to that on maybe these things. If somebody did know, they could maybe get a little bit of head start.
Yeah, I think some of it is too just being empowered. Like I feel like we kind of go into this and go, oh, it's like you lose all of your power or what you feel like you have control over, right? It's such a terrible time. All right, number 1. A doctor does more than prescribe meds.
Yeah.
So I had 2 vastly different experiences with oncologists at the beginning. One who was like, if you really want some treatment, I suppose I can conjure some up, right? Mm-hmm. And one who was all in about, okay, let's attack this cancer from every angle. I'm going to do my part, you do yours. Like, let's work together.
Yeah. And our only real experience with doctors prior to this was getting a physical or
having a baby.
Yeah. And your brother.
Yeah.
So those were the only people. And your brother and our doctor that delivered the baby, whatever those are called. What are those called?
Well, she actually was in family practice.
Okay.
Usually it's...
both of those 2 humans were really, really great people and gave a shit about you and wanted to get to know you much deeper than just here's the medicine and here's your problem, let's fix it. It was a much level. So honestly, there's probably an assumption on our part that all doctors were like that. You wouldn't go into that if you weren't like that.
Yeah, but
not true.
Not true, but I also think that sometimes we feel like, oh, this doctor's really smart, or this doctor's really, everybody's told me they're really good. But if you do not mesh, it's not the doctor for you. Right?
True.
Like it doesn't matter. I don't want somebody coming in and being a pompous ass, you know? Mm-hmm. I want somebody who's recognizing that this is my body and this is happening to me.
Yeah.
And I want to participate. I don't want to just be told what to do and told that anything that I do doesn't matter and all that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So the relationship with your doctor is really important. I mean, and again, I get we all tolerate different things, but if you're leaving appointments and you're just kind of going, oh, find somebody else. Like there's other people out there, which we can then kind of jump into number 2, which is sometimes going farther away for your treatment, for your doctors is a good thing.
Yeah.
And that might seem weird, but do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, well, and we do realize that this is not possible for everybody because of finances or because of your situation with your kids and that
or
that
because
kind
of your
thing.
healthcare,
your healthcare, which doctor or which hospital you can go to. So, if there is an option, what we found in the normal oncologist that Heather went to is about 2.5 hours away from our house, which I know is not that long. But we've also had experiences going to Chicago and going to, not Chicago, but
Mayo.
Well, north of Chicago, whatever that
Evanston.
is. Evanston, and then going out to Mayo, which Evanston's 4 or 5 hours. Mayo is about 10 or 11 hours type of thing. Yeah. And we kind of made them mini trips. Yeah. We weren't really planning on that, but it was kind of a vacation away from real life. And I know we were going out there either for testing or for treatment or for surgeries or those kind of things, but we made all of them, it's going to sound weird, little mini vacations.
Well,
And
I
they
would
were.
say they were a good time to kind of get away from the norm.
Yes,
right?
that's what I mean.
We didn't have the same obligation. Somebody else was watching our kids or watching our dogs or whatever that looked like. It was good, always good for us to be able to get in the car and process things. And especially even early on, it was kind of nice even to have that 2.5 hours home to kind of like process what had happened or figure out how I was feeling or whatever that looked like before you walked in your door. Especially when you're a young mom and, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I think that was really helpful. The other thing that I think it was helpful for is that it also didn't change my town, where we live, the places we go, into all about cancer, right?
Sure,
Which
that's
is
true.
where, so now, I mean, the farther I have been away from it, the more I've had experiences in these other cities where I don't think of it just as about cancer. But it is kind of nice just to kind of have your own routine for doing appointments or whatever that are farther away. Mm-hmm. And that's,
meaning, if you do have we kind of have a couple of small town hospitals near us, and that she does a lot of things at, but a lot of people get their full treatment of metastatic cancer done around here, and that's just not something we're comfortable with.
Yeah, it wouldn't work for us, for sure.
I mean, we want a research place. We want people that are being talked about in those journals as on the leading edge of what's going on in cancer, and we're going to seek them out, and that's where we're going. Yeah. And we got lucky in the beginning.
Yep.
With having a connection and getting into the University of Michigan because of who we knew. Yep. And we got lucky there, but that kind of opened, I think, our eyes to, wait a minute, we can go anywhere. There's no limitations on that. So, yeah. And we didn't have any money. So, I mean, when we talk about resources or whatever, we were pinching pennies to do this.
Well, and this is the other thing. I think maybe this is a side note, but maybe this is an 11th thing, in that people are willing to help you. And I guess one of my other ones was people can't support you if you don't tell them, right? Mm-hmm. And when we were talking about doing these things, people did offer support in all sorts of ways, and I just think there's a lot of people out there now, especially in that maybe they have a bunch of hotel points, or maybe they this or that, where they can go, yeah, I'll get you a room. My brother has done that for us many, many times over the years. So appreciative of it. I truly believe he's fine with doing it, happy to do it. Yeah. And it's one of those things that it's like, okay, maybe if we tell people what we need, they will be able to fill that gap in a way that is even far beyond what we thought it would be, right?
Absolutely.
So, I get, like, when we talk about people supporting, that's another thing where I go, I understand that all people are different, but I feel like it's important to me to say, I understand this is about me, and therefore I am going to participate in all aspects of it, which sometimes means delegating, but I want it to come from me. I want the ask, that kind of stuff. I want people to know that it was me first that was thinking about these things,
Yeah.
There's a lot of, you just hear about things like, oh, do you think do you think Heather would appreciate a meal? Well, ask Heather, or ask your family, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So, I don't know. I think support is, our society is moving so far away from like this community support and like we'll do everything on our own, and that doesn't make anybody feel better.
Now
it's just struggle.
It seems to me it's just the GoFundMe.
Yeah.
I want to help somebody out. Here's an opportunity how I can do that. I'm going to set up a GoFundMe and I'm going to make them up. When in reality, they might have just needed a ride.
Yeah.
They might have just needed somebody to come and hang out with for a little bit. They might have just you're right. We're getting away from the personal
part of it
compared to 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right.
GoFundMes are great though.
Yes.
People need them.
And also, I think I've talked about this briefly with GoFundMes. I would do them early versus late.
Yes.
I mean, people need to be able to be supported in a time when things are really changing quickly, but also when they're, maybe able to really focus still on their healthcare versus just living out the rest of their days. So,
yeah.
Right?
For sure.
All right. I think
you jumped all around. I don't even know what number we're on.
I think we're going to go to, I think it's number 4.
Okay, but it's not the 4th one.
No.
Okay. Confusing.
But there were random.
Why do we make these lists?
Well, everybody likes a list.
Okay, well, you just ruined it.
It feels better with a plan. Number 4, talking about, this is just recognizing that horrible feeling of the first few weeks to a month. I don't know what the time span is. It depends on your situation. Is terrible. It's your mind is going everywhere. Nothing feels
because you
right.
don't know anything.
Because you don't know anything. So eventually you're going to get to a plan. And even if that plan has some really hard things in it, it's going to feel better to know that you have a plan. And to be able to
start checking off boxes
and structuring your days and figuring things out. It will feel better. Recognize that this initial spin is not forever.
Yeah. And do you feel like you look back, I know it was a long time ago, but were you completely clueless on that?
Yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
And the other problem was that the testing that I was doing and stuff like that, every test just was bad.
Yeah.
Like every outcome of it was bad. So I didn't know where the bottom was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you kind of got to get all the way through it to then be able to start going up the other side. Mm-hmm. Right. And you don't know that until...
Yeah. Luckily, you did not have to spend a lot of time in that neutral phase.
That stuff moved really quickly.
And the plan was laid out for us really early. I don't know how they came to that so early and fast. Because they did. It was fast.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to spend a lot of time in that. But we do hear about people who spend a month.
Or more.
Where nothing is happening.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, just, woo.
Yeah.
Plan is good.
Yeah. All right. Number 5 might be a little controversial.
Love it.
But I do feel like...
Shake things up here.
There is such a thing as too much information.
Well, I 100% agree. Yeah, they already know that if they listen to this.
I just... I can't tell you exactly how I would react at that time. Google was not really a thing when I was diagnosed. We didn't have a computer.
But there were research. Yeah, it existed. Your mom was doing that for us.
Yes, in different ways, she was. And I think information that's filtered through somebody else is fine. I think that information that you go and seek on the internet often takes you down rabbit holes. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I feel the most strongly about is protecting my thoughts. Like protecting my thoughts. And sometimes you think, I'll just read one more thing, or I'll just read this, or I'll just read that. And you stumble upon things that you just can't unthink. I'm not even going to say them on here. Yep. Like, you can't unthink thoughts. And some of them come back and nag at the worst time, or they show up when you're sitting with your doctor and they say, well, this is happening, and you think, oh, that means this. Your brain automatically makes that connection. Yeah. And so...
And I know this list is things I wish I would have known, which Heather is not real good at staying on task here. We were oblivious to all those things you would look up or had the capability of looking up today. And I am very thankful of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also, I went into protection mode pretty early and also pretty thoughtfully. Like I knew...
I know you did.
I knew I needed to do that. It was a different level of it, but I knew right away. And this applies to everything. It applies to techs who are trying to read you test results. It applies to all of these things where you can say, please stop, or I don't want to do this. Yeah. Or, when your brain starts thinking, oh, this doesn't feel good, stop.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so true. And I'm thankful that we did not have access for the first year or so of treatment to the internet and Google or whatever search engine to look this stuff up, because I think I probably would have, just out of curiosity or whatever. And then just subconsciously, I think some of that would have leaked onto you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Just my reaction or stuff. But I was oblivious and still am, honestly, today. I don't know what the stats are. I don't know. I've never looked them up. I really don't have a lot of interest in looking it up because you are here. And I'm happy about that now.
Yeah.
I was oblivious in the beginning, happy about it now.
Yeah.
I think absolutely, and this goes for caregivers too. Why, if somebody tells you you're likely going to die in 2 years, I believe our body and our brain manifests some things.
Absolutely.
And if none of us right now have a date, right? None of us have an age, none of us have a date when we're going to die or a how or any of that. What good is it, trying to get that information? I just don't understand.
Well, and also you're giving somebody else the power. You're
Absolutely.
giving somebody else the power to tell you something that is a prediction on their part. It is only a prediction. It is not the truth. It's not
true.
Like nobody can go into their computer and go, oh, there's the date for them.
How many people do you know of have died a day after their birthday that they were trying to get to? Seriously.
Right.
Our brain is so powerful.
People, yes, they get through major life events. They live to them or through them and die. And that's your body willing yourself on. Use it for good. Use it for good. You did kind of take the thunder of my last one.
Damn it. She doesn't share the list with me beforehand. It's not my fault.
Okay. Next one, which I believe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is your intuition is probably right. So that little voice that is telling you something, listen to it.
Like what?
Like, oh, this doesn't feel good. What this person's going to tell me? Tell them to stop or walk away. Or I don't. Maybe a conversation with your doctor that you had that just feels like, that doesn't sit right with me. I need to ask more questions, or I need to figure out, do we have to move this fast? Do we, anything like that.
Speak up.
Speak up. Speak up. I think, especially, again, as women, we learn very early to shut up, and not, no, this is you, what you think, what you believe, that's what's right for you,
mm-hmm.
And
it may not be right for anybody else, but for you.
Exactly. You get to, this is your path.
Yes.
This is your path. I know I had people thinking I was crazy. I don't care. They don't think I'm crazy anymore.
I don't think so. I don't think people thought you were crazy. I think you shocked some people sometimes, or put them on their, straightened them up, and they listened a little because they weren't used to people doing that.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody went, oh, she's crazy. No, it was okay. And you got people's attention.
It was maybe more, okay, I don't know if I buy that, but if she does, cool.
Maybe that, yeah.
Which is fine.
Nothing's wrong with any of those.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I just, if you can quiet your thoughts, if you can, sometimes they come at you, well, that intuition, I feel like, oftentimes it is that first thought you're having, and it's right in the moment. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we don't even acknowledge it at all. Or after the fact, you think about it. But that's okay. You get better at doing that. The more you say, oh, I did think that, or I did feel that way. So
listen to yourself. Listen to your body.
Yeah. Yeah. And
take control of the people.
The other thing
you.
With that is also like when your body's telling you to rest. Or mm-hmm. when your body, you know your body. It's not a free pass to do nothing. It's okay, what works best for me? How do I make this the most effective? Or, So, all right. Number 7 and number 8 sort of go together. Number 7 is your kids really, if they're young, are not going to be super affected by this. And while it scared me so much to think that Sydney wouldn't remember things, it also was such a relief that she wasn't that it wasn't.
That she didn't remember.
Yeah, that she didn't remember.
Yeah, but this was huge. In your life, in our lives, the thought that Sydney wouldn't remember me, if I wasn't going to be here, I wouldn't be able to teach her these things, or she wouldn't know this about me and her past, mm-hmm. or, that kind of thing. So much so that you were journaling about it.
Yeah.
And that was the titles of each chapter of your book that you wrote. These letters that you wrote to her before she could understand. Yeah. It was big.
But in the day-to-day also to just think, you know what? She wasn't recognizing, oh, Mom felt like crap yesterday.
None.
It was not part of her world.
It was all about her. We found out.
Which is great, because it can even turn into a distraction for you, right? That this kid is just living her best life, And honestly, she didn't care if I was bald. She didn't care if I didn't have breasts. She didn't care. Like, I was just her mom, and that was such a awesome thing, right? Mm-hmm. So, the next one with that is it's okay to put yourself first. Kind of that whole, they're not like really remembering. They're not going to be like, you didn't spend every moment with me. Mm-hmm. It's. I feel like I had the most guilt over this that thought of, am I doing the right thing to take time for myself every day? And not only to take time, but to know if I needed to sleep, I needed to sleep, or if I needed somebody to watch her, that's what I needed. But I just I would continue to think about it over the long term, right? Hours then hopefully meant years later in terms of longevity. Mm-hmm. And so it's, yeah.
I agree.
Okay. Wow. I feel like we're flying through this. You think?
I think it's an appropriate pace.
Okay, this one's more medical. Ports are good.
So tell them why.
We'll talk about, all of these things. So you kind of go into cancer, you don't really know anything. I started off with chemotherapy, and I was like, you're going to do a treatment every 3 weeks. We're going to do 4 treatments, and we'll reevaluate. And I was like, oh, okay, that's no big deal. I don't need a port. That's just 4 times.
Did they offer one?
I feel like they did.
Maybe, yeah.
I feel like they did offer a port, and I was like, no, it's just 4 times. Well, let's be honest. It's not 4 times in terms of being stuck, right? You're being
hundreds of times.
Every test, everything that you're doing requires, access in some way, and your veins just quickly go, no, thank you. And so I went through kind of all of my treatment I had a stem cell treatment, so that had an access, like a port that was outside, whatever that's called, PICC line. That was different. But then I went through all of that stuff and then ended up getting a port because I'm crazy like that. And when I got the port, the first one I had was up in my chest area. And again, just that with, numbing cream, you guys, I know not all doctors like it. It's the greatest thing in the world. And if your doctor doesn't I did push back on that sometimes. Like, we're using, Emla or lidocaine or whatever it is. So
why would a doctor not?
The one in Mount Pleasant said it can cause irritation. And I'm like, well, the stick feels pretty good. Like, again, okay, I'll quit asking you. I'll just use it. Thank you very much. But having a port and just, again, not having your body kind of being like tensed up and worried about being stuck and just all of that anxiety, it was so nice to use that. And then because I did everything in this wonky order, I had done a double mastectomy in my first year, and then I was flat. And then a couple of years later, I don't know how many, 3-ish, I would say, I decided to do reconstruction, and my plastic surgeon was like, oh, that port's going to need to go. And so we moved. I actually did a port in my arm, which I loved, and I rarely see them, and I don't know why. I had that port in my arm for a long time, 10 years.
So describe where it was for people.
It was right under, so in the top part of my arm, bicep,
by your bicep, yeah.
Area, kind of the soft underneath part of my arm.
Kind of in the lower armpit.
Yep, and it was about the size of like a dime. Yep. So it was never in the way of things. There would be a very few times if I was reaching or something that I might have to protect it a little bit, but it just was out of the way all the time. It was so great to be able to go somewhere and not have to like wear something special to get access to it. I just had to have a short sleeve shirt on. It was just so comfortable. And again, access so much easier.
And when you were wearing normal clothes, you didn't have to necessarily take that into consideration if you wanted it not to be seen.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, a chest port sticks out a little bit, and sure. and I just found it to be fairly uncomfortable. So ports are good. Arm ports are my favorite. But even that kind of stuff, I guess, kind of an aside to this is also just kind of realizing, like, in the hospital situation when you're doing a lot of testing, it's so great. It makes it so much better when you realize that you can kind of go, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to tell them that I'm not just doing this, but this is my day, and I'm going to get it accessed at the right place so that it can go with me the whole day. Mm-hmm. So that I don't, because if you don't, then you'll get to Nuke Med and they'll say, well, we know it's accessed, but we need this, Mm-hmm. So just learning how to navigate all of the ins and outs of one stick maximum kind of thing is a great thing to know also.
And what you didn't know was, wow, I can ask these questions of even the scheduler sometimes, or even, of somebody in, what is it called? The blood draw. Yeah. And explaining to them your day, and they can go, oh, or, that
was the other thing. I didn't know that. And I realized, like, in my situation, sometimes you had to go to blood draw to get it accessed the right way for everybody, because like Nuke Med could only access it one way that was good for some people. Yep. So knowing the ins and outs of that,
which you're not going to know. That's what I keep saying here. The topic of this is things I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known that you could ask people how do I get to one stick today? And they can give you an answer to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably need to know that before that day in planning how to get there.
We're teaching them what I wish. This is painful. We did the same thing on our walk this morning.
I wish I knew how good ports were.
Yes, but then you brought up a new topic.
Well, I know, because that one didn't make it into my top 10, but it should have.
It was 10A.
10A, right.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Well, that was good. That was a lot of good information for people.
Okay, there's one more, though. You already kind of
10B.
jumped on it. No, this is actually 10.
Oh, okay.
I don't, numbers, not my thing. Words all day long. No one can put a timeline on your life. Like, you just need to know that. And I wouldn't ask for one either.
Nope.
Right?
People do.
People do all the time. And if somebody beside you starts to ask, you have the right to give them a little punch.
Or I'm going to step out.
Yeah. Or, if you want to talk about this.
Honestly, if this were our scenario back then, and I wanted to know, I think the power in Heather being the patient here has the power to go, I don't want you to know. I don't want this to be part of it at all. Doctor, I don't want you thinking it right now.
Yeah.
You have that power to set up your treatment. It's your treatment. It's your life. I think you should have that power. And if other people want to know whatever, they can Google, but I don't know if they should be around you.
Well, even that, again, it goes back to the whole statistics, right? Nobody can determine which side of those statistics that we live by you'll be on. So, yeah. All right. Whew.
It's a good one.
10 plus.
10 plus. We're just going to call that 10 plus.
One last thing before we go. Reviews. We need them.
There has not been one Apple review since I've asked. I don't think they like me.
Maybe
they're poor. We have poor listeners listening.
Maybe
to
they're
our
very
podcast.
busy.
Okay, really? It takes 5 minutes.
It's
4.
probably less.
Probably 3 minutes.
Just say we love it. Or episode 195 is amazing.
Amazing.
I don't even know what episode we're on.
Yes. You can do this, people.
We believe in you.
We need you.
All right. We'll be back next week.
We will.
See ya.
See ya.